What's going on, guys? Big Red coming at you today with another video here for NASCAR Heat 4. And as you can see, we've already got our setup pulled up, and this is going to be the third installment to how to build a custom setup series. What we're going to be doing today is showing you how to find that perfect gear, what you're looking for in the RPM range and all that good stuff. Once again, just like the other videos, this is 100% my thoughts and opinions, so if it don't work for you, I'm sorry, but hopefully you can pick up at least something through these. So what I'm going to show you first is going to be the actual gear chart that we've made. Big shout out to my buddy Bad Ping for putting it all together. And yeah, anyway, we'll get into that and I'll kind of explain to you everything with the gear chart, how it's going to help you, and how it's going to help you find that gear. So as we switched over to the gear chart here, you'll see, let's go ahead and zoom in on it. Your rear differential is over here on the left, so that's actually what you're going to see in the game. That's called the rear end ratio. Across the top is your fourth gear. So a lot of the places and a lot of times you'll see whatever this rear end ratio or rear differential is, and it's always going to be set to the 1.00, which is straight down this column. Something to note here, the higher number you see down here, the more RPMs you're going to turn at a track. The lower number, the lower RPMs. So to kind of explain the center and everything, these numbers is what you get when you times your rear differential by your fourth gear. That is your overall gear ratio. So you'll see some people tell you to run a 307 with a 105. What that actually comes out to, if you go over here to a 307 and you follow it all the way out to the 105 column, that actually comes out to a 322 rear end. And that's your overall gear ratio. So let's say right now mine is set on a 3.4 with a 1. So we have a 340 rear end ratio. The way I initially was going to make the video was going to be heavily involving gameplay, but I didn't figure that would really help. So this ratio, I can tell you, turns about 9,000 RPMs by yourself at the end of the straightaway. A sweet spot on this game is right around 8,500. And the reason being is you have to go ahead and count for the draft you're going to be getting on online lobbies and things like that. Therefore, you'll have to drop this back. You can go down to a 333. You can look all through these numbers and find whatever you're looking for. 325, 326. But the big thing you understand is whatever gear you do look for and what you go with, and I will recommend testing about 4 to 5 different gears to see what fits your car the best. You'll go over here once again and you'll set your rear differential to whatever it tells you to do. Let's say we're going to go with the 307 and the 105. And that's going to give us an overall gear ratio of a 322. Try not to overcomplicate it. It's very, very simple. All you have to remember is whatever this number is, the higher you go, the higher the RPMs. The lower you go, the lower the RPMs. So right now, we want to go lower. So we're going to go with the 307 with the 105. So as we're back on this screen, 105, 307, this is actually going to give us our overall ratio of a 322, which is what we're looking for. Somewhere right around in there, we'll have to actually test it and see what it does on the track. One of the things I do like to do is go ahead and bump this up. So we'll be 25 here, 50 to the next number, and somewhere around the 75 to a 1.0. You'll just have to play with first gear a little bit to see how it feels to you. And the reason we focus a lot on first, second, third at these tracks is because the sweet spot, in my opinion, when it comes to switching between the gears is somewhere around 7,000 RPMs. 7,000 to 7,200. If you can get your car when you switch gears to automatically be at that RPM range, it's going to give you a better takeoff. A lot of people probably notice online, a lot of the people that's watching this video, some of these guys are killing you on the start. You know, you'll get passed on the start like you're sitting still. Well, a lot of that's got to do with the way they got their gears set up, and also if they're running a shifter. Me, myself, I'm not running a shifter, but with a shifter without using the clutch, just bump shifting straight into gear, you're going to pick up about a tenth to a tenth and a half when you actually go through the gears. Cord hit the side of my leg just then, thought something was crawling up it. So here we go. Make sure you're paying attention to the RPM gauge. As we launch off the start and I change into second gear, we're right at 7,000 RPMs. Change into third, right about 71, 72. So my opinion, right now, these gears are about as good as you're going to get on takeoff. You can play with it a little bit more. As you've seen when we switched into fourth, it was higher in the RPM range, so it pulled a whole lot harder. So we're going to test this gear out all the way around the track, and I'll try to talk through it, but y'all know I'm not the big content guy, especially when it comes to this type of video. But let's see here. Down the front stretch, it looks like we're pulling about somewhere around 87 to 8,800 RPMs. So in my opinion, that's very high. Well, not very high, but it's higher than what I want it to be. As I'm just bouncing off the wall for no reason. This should be about a 29 point, it's going to be about a 29.5 at this point, because we've hit the wall and the apron. 430, so I wasn't too far off of my guess. In my opinion, once again, I'm too high on that. So we'll go back into our setup, and we know a 322 is too high now. So we switch back to our gear chart. I'm going to zoom in a little better so y'all can see. And we were at a 322 right here. So now we're looking for about a 320. So we'll drop a couple of teeth. We'll go down to a 291 with a 110. So 291, 110, that's our 320. That's our overall gear ratio. I do like going lower on the rear differential versus coming up here and finding the 320, because if you go lower on your rear differential, you still have a very long travel in between gears. Versus if you go up here and you look at the, let's try to get somewhere around like a 500, you're very, very short on all your gears, because you would have to run a 500, a 325 with a 65 in order to get that. So the rest of your gears would be like a 65, a 75, a 95, and probably a 125. It gets really, really weird when you go up. I feel that the lower the rear differential, the better pull you got coming off the curves, especially at 1.5 miles, somewhere in there. So we will switch back over and we'll change our gear to a 291 with a 110. And we'll see how we can do with it. Once again, I will spare y'all the, let's go to an 85 there. I will spare y'all the waiting game, and we'll come back as we get ready to take off. All right, here we go. As you can see, we're taking off. I forgot to, all right, so right at 7,000 RPMs on that gear change. Right at about 71 on that gear change. I forgot to unmute the actual sound for the race car, so I did fix that for this. But here we go. Let's see how it pulls. Once you find a gear you really like, that's when you'll start paying attention to the temperature, and which we'll do. Hit the apron again. You can tell it's been a while since I've ran this track. 238, somewhere in there right now, so drop to about 8,000. This is a very draft heavy track though, when you are running, public lobbies, all that good stuff. I think this is about as close to the gear we need as we're going to get today though. 8,100, right around that in the actual curve. 227 with a mess up's not too bad. I didn't get down anywhere close to the yellow line there. So add probably half a tenth to a tenth there. I like the way it pulls though. Your next step, and this is why I always preach about having a group to test with. My next step to this whole process would be getting with the group, going online and running this thing in the draft to see where it hits. To me, that is about as close as you want to get. If you do jump around a little bit more, we'll go back over to the gear chart. We were at a 320 there. We'll try a 280 with a 115 real quick. I know it's still a 322, but at the same time, that 280 is going to pull different than that 307. So maybe it'll be a little bit different when it comes to the RPM range. It'll kill off a couple of hundred, and if so, we'll be fine. Alright, so here we go once again. And like I said, it's a lot of back and forth. I wasn't planning for this to be a lot of gameplay, or gameplay heavy video. You can see our switch into third gear just there. We dropped below 7,000 RPMs. So I would probably go back and change second. Third to fourth was okay. We're right around the 7,800 mark. So hopefully we'll get us a good corner here. Setup needs a little bit of work, but this is ×1, so. Alright. Let's send her off in here, see what happens. Get a good run down the back stretch. That'll tell us what we need to do when it comes to the actual gear. At the end of the straightaway, we're right around the 85 to 86. Kind of missed the corner there, but honestly, this don't feel too bad at all. And you can see we used the same overall gear, but the lower rear end differential did have an effect. It actually dropped the RPM some. So with that being said, I would be comfortable running this in the draft to at least test to see what happens. You never know. You may pick up, a couple of hundred. You may only pick up, 100 when it comes to the actual RPMs. Hopefully I explained that good enough and, kind of passed on some knowledge you didn't know. Helped you when it comes to the actual gear ratio chart to figure out exactly where you need to go with your overall gear, and then how you can get, your third, your second, and your first. Just to go over it once again, I'll switch back over. Once again, your overall rear end ratio is going to be your rear differential times your fourth gear. And that's going to give you a number in here. So if you're at a track right now and you have a 345 with a 90 and you think it feels really good and you're at a 311, that is your overall ratio. You would follow your 345 all the way over to your .90 column. And you're at a 3.11. And you feel like it's turning just a hair too much, too much RPMs, but a 310's not enough and you need to switch it up. Then you would look in here and you would find a 309. So then you would go back and make your rear differential, your rear end ratio, a 294, and you would make your fourth gear a 105. At that point, you would give yourself a 309. So from a 105 being in your fourth gear, you would add around 25 to this. So you would go up to a 130 for third gear. Then for second gear, you would add 50 to that. So you'd be at a 180. Well, for first gear, if you're at a 180 and second, you'll need to add somewhere around 80 to 100 to that. So I would start off at like a 260. Once you're at that 260 and you go out on the track, you start the race, you feel like your car, needs just a little bit more RPMs before you switch from first to second. At that point, you can make your first gear a little bit longer. So you can make it a 265, so you get just a hair more RPMs before you switch into second gear. That way you can always try to shift, and when your next gear picks up, it'll be around 7,000 RPMs. There's no right way or wrong way to do it. I can only tell you my way once again. But hopefully y'all enjoyed this video. As always, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe. We're rapidly growing here. The Discord's over 600 members. I think we're over 600 on the actual website now. So yeah, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything needs to be clarified, please drop it in the comment section below. Or if you're in the Discord, hit the Ask Red section, and I try to stay up to date on that pretty good bit. I appreciate everybody and all the support from NASCAR Heat and the community, and I'll catch up with y'all later. Thank you.